The Scorpion Ridge border checkpoint erupts in chaos as 30 heavily armed Los Zorros cartel operatives breach the facility's outer defenses. Gunfire echoes through the command center while ICE agents scramble for cover. But in their arrogance, the most ruthless cartel in northern Mexico has made a fatal miscalculation. They've infiltrated what appears to be a standard border station, unaware they've just walked into the domain of America's most lethal four-legged defender's military tread. K-9 units led by former Army Ranger Camila Flores, deep within the facility, secure K-9 section Boltz a Belgian Malinois with 3 combat deployments. Locks eyes with his handler. Camila, this isn't their first battlefield alongside Luna, an explosive detection specialist who saved dozens of lives. Titan, a Dutch she who's hunted cartel smugglers across 5 states, and Shadow, a wounded warrior whose fighting spirit refuses to break. They form an elite tactical unit the cartel never anticipated. Tonight, as Scorpion Ridge transforms from checkpoint to war zone, the Los Zorros will learn why America's military K-9 units are feared by enemies worldwide, and why attacking this facility may become the cartel's final operation on U.S. soil. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. Morning sun casts long shadows across Scorpion Ridge border checkpoint as Camila Flores makes her routine inspection. Her boots crunch against the gravel while Boltz MV silently beside her, his muscular frame alert and ready. The Belgian Malinois ears prick forward at every sound, his training evident in the way he scans their surroundings. Morning Chief Camila nods at Richard Brown as he exits the main facility. Flores Brown returns the gesture, his weathered face showing the strain of 20 years protecting the border. Got those new security protocols implemented? Yes, sir. K-9 teams have been drilling the response patterns all week. Both here could probably run the exercise in his sleep. The dog's ears twitch at the sound of his name. Brown studies the animal with grudging respect. Still think it's excessive. He mutters, "This isn't Afghanistan." Camila restrains herself from argument with respect. Sir, cartels are getting more sophisticated military tactics, military-grade weapons. We need to be prepared. I've got Washington breathing down my neck about resource allocation hard to justify specialized K-9 tactical training for a checkpoint that hasn't seen serious action in years before Camila can respond. David Moreno approaches, his pace deliberate but steady for a man 3 months from retirement. Morning, folks, David says, coffee in hand. Camila, that new girl working. Yet the translator Valeria started yesterday seems sharp. David nods. Good, we need someone who understands the local dialects. These smugglers switch up their code words weekly. Camila watches as Boltz subtly shifts position, his body language communicating something only she can read. She follows his gaze to the southwest fence line. Something's off, she says quietly. David's expression changes immediately. Years of experience have taught him to trust both Camila and her dog's instincts. What are you seeing and not seeing feeling? Camila glances at Boltz, whose focus remains unbroken. Boltz is picking up on something in the distance. Dust trails mark the movement of vehicles. On remote roads, just another day on the border, or so it seems, inside the main building. Mato Rivera runs Luna through a routine explosive detection exercise. The German Shepherd moves methodically through the room, her nose working with scientific precision. Mato watches with pride, though the shadows under his eyes speak to another restless night plagued by memories of his Marine deployment. Perfect form, Dr. Isabella Jimenez comments as she enters, clipboard in hand. The facility veterinarian has been documenting Luna's recovery from a minor injury last month. Mato nods. She's back to 100%. Aren't you, girl? Luna, raspy bonds with focused determination, completing her sweep before returning to Mateo's side. How about you? Isabella asks quietly, those meds helping with the sleep. Mateo's jaw tightens. I'm fine, Doc. Focus on the dogs. Isabella makes a note. The dogs are only as effective as their handlers. Rivera, you know that their conversation is interrupted as Jessica Williams, the facility's intelligence analyst, enters with a concerned expression. Mateo, Dr. Jimenez, have you seen this? She holds up a tablet showing satellite imagery. 3rd time this week. We've had unusual vehicle activity on the south access roads. Pattern doesn't match normal trafficking. Mato studies. The imagery looks Like reconnaissance testing response times, maybe? That's what I thought. I flagged it for Brown, but she hesitates, but he thinks you're being paranoid. Mateo finishes something like that. Jessica tucks a strand of hair behind her ear. There's more chatter than usual. 2 intercepts mentioning Scorpion Ridge specifically. Dr. Jimenez looks between them. Should I be worried about my patients? Probably nothing. Jessica says, not sounding convinced, but maybe run Titan and Shadow through some extra drills just in case in the communication center. Nathan Smith monitors the border sensor grid, noting anomalies in the pattern. Something doesn't add up. He picks up his radio. Flores, you there? Camila's voice crackles back. Go ahead. Smith got some unusual readings on the southern senses. Can you take Boltz down for a closer look? Might be equipment failure. But on it, Sila gestures to Boltz, who immediately shifts into work mode, his entire demeanor changing together. They head toward the southern perimeter, moving with the coordinated efficiency of partners who trust each other implicitly. The southern vent line shows no obvious signs of tampering. But Boltz's behavior tells a different story. His posture becomes rigid, his movements deliberate and cautious. What is it, boy? Camila whispers, trusting the dog's senses more than her own. Boltz leads her to a section of fence that looks undisturbed to the human eye. But when Camila examines it closely, she notices subtle signs of tampering. Professional work, Smith. We've got evidence of fence testing down here. Recent. Looks like they were checking our response protocols. Copy that. Want backup. Negative, but alert. Moreno, and get Luna down here. I want a second nose on this. Minutes later, David arrives with Matto and Luna. The second dog confirms Boltz's find, alerting to the same section of fence. Professional work, David mutters, examining the nearly invisible signs of tampering. Not your typical coyotes. Zorros, Matto suggests. David's expression darkens. Emilio Cruz has been pushing into this territory. Intelligence says he's looking to establish a permanent corridor. Camila watches the dogs work the perimeter. If it is lost, Zorros, they don't usually bother with reconnaissance. They prefer brute force. Maybe they're revolving, Matto says, or planning something bigger than the usual drug run. Camila adds. David straightens up. I'll call Brown. We should request additional personnel. Just in case. Good luck with that. Matto says. Brown's been under pressure to reduce costs, not increase security back at the main facility. For Laria, Cruz moves efficiently through her translation duties, her pleasant smile hiding her true purpose. During a bathroom break, she sends a coded text. Message: security aware of tests, proceed with caution. Miles away in a remote staging area, Emilio Cruz reads the message with a frown. His sister's infiltration of the border checkpoint is yielding valuable intelligence, but not of it is welcome problems, asks Alejandro Eltigre Santos, the cartel's most feared enforcer. The dogs found our test points, Emilio says. They're more thorough than expected. Elris scoffs. Dogs, we have tranquilizer rounds. Problem solved. Don't underestimate them. Amelia warns. These aren't regular police dogs. They're military trained with handlers who know what they're doing, so we adjust the plan. Eltigre examines the detailed model of the border checkpoint. The primary objective remains the same: establish control, secure the crossing, create a permanent corridor. Amelia nods, studying the model, and for that we need to neutralize their biggest advantage. The K9 unit, Elra says with a cruel smile. Leave that to me at the checkpoint. Chief Brown dismisses the security concerns. In the afternoon briefing, fence testing happens all the time. He says to the assembled team, standard cartage procedure. They probe, we respond. They back off. This felt different. Sir Camila insists the precision, the professionalism they were gathering. Tactical intelligence, Flores. I appreciate your military background, but this is a border checkpoint, not a forward operating base. We function on budgets and manpower allocations, not worst-case scenarios. Jessica Williams clears her throat. Sir, the intercepts I've been monitoring show increased chatter, specifically mentioning Scorpion Ridge. That's not typical chatter, is just talk. Brown dismisses. When we have actionable intelligence, we'll act after the briefing. David pulls Camila aside. He's wrong, and we both know it. I've seen this before. Camila says quietly. In Afghanistan, you can feel when something's building the quiet before an attack. So what do we do when the man in charge won't listen? Camila's expression hardens. We prepare anyway. Run the dogs through the tactical scenarios. Check all equipment and pray. We're being paranoid that evening as the facility transitions tonight. Operations. Camila gathers the K9 handlers in the training area. Besides Mateo, there's Sophia with Titan the Dutch Shepherd and James with Shadow, the black German Shepherd still recovering from injuries sustained during a previous operation. Listen up, Camila says. I don't care what Brown thinks something's coming. I want every dog ready, every handler sharp. We're running patent Delta tonight. The full tactical response grid. Sophia questions Brown will have a fit if he finds out better to ask. Forgiveness than permission. Camila replies, especially when lives might depend on it. As night falls over the desert, the handlers run their dogs through complex tactical scenarios. Each animal moves with precision, responding to subtle commands working. In coordination with the other dogs, they practice room-clearing hostage scenarios and coordinated takedowns, protocols developed from Camila's military experience and adapted for border security. Music operations. Watching from a distance, Tyler Davis, the newest ICE recruit, approaches Camila with awe. I've never seen dogs work like that, he admits, almost like they understand strategy. They do in their way. Camila explains watching Boltz coordinate with Luna on a flanking exercise. Dogs naturally hunt in packs. Were just channeling that instinct into tactical applications in Afghanistan. We discovered K9 teams could work together in ways nobody expected. I brought that knowledge home, and that's what saved you in Kandahar. Camila's hand unconsciously touches the scar on her neck. Bolt saved me and 11 other soldiers. He remembers what it's like to fight for real, and so do I. That's why I can't shake this feeling that we're about to be test-ed unknown too. The ICE personnel across the border. Emilio Cruz finalizes his plans with 30 hand-picked men. Maps of the checkpoint are spread across the table, with key security features marked. Tomorrow night we make history. Emilio tells his men, Los Zorros will control the most valuable smuggling corridor on the border. Once we have the checkpoint, nothing moves across without our permission and our profit. Eltiger points to different sections of the map. First team breaches here, creating a diversion. Second team cuts power and communications here. Main force enters through the vehicle inspection area. What about the K9 unit? One man asks. Emilio exchanges glances with El Tigre. We have inside information on their protocols and containment procedures. The dogs will be neutralized. First, remember, Emilio adds, we need control of the main systems and the command center intact. This isn't just a raid, it's an occupation. Los Zorros are here to stay, back at the checkpoint as midnight approaches. Camila makes a final inspection, and with Boltz, the facility seems quiet, but both handler and dog remain alert. Her radio crackles. Flores, this is Williams, just intercepted something you should hear. Go ahead. Partial transmission heavily encrypted. Mentioned Scorpion Ridge and Manana several times. Then something about clearing the path. Camila watches Boltz as his prick forward, as if he too understands the significance. Keep monitoring. I'll alert Moreno. She finds David in the break room, his experienced eyes immediately reading her concern. We've got confirmation, she says simply. Something's happening tomorrow. David nods, setting down his coffee. Brown still thinks we're overreacting. Then we prepare without him. I've got some old friends at Border Patrol. I'll make some calls, have them on. Stand by. Camila looks out the window at the dark desert beyond the checkpoint's lights. It won't be enough if it's Los Zorros in force. Then we rely on your dogs. David says simply, God help us in her quarters that night. Gila reviews the facility schematics one last time before allowing herself a few hours of rest. Boltz settles on the floor beside her bed. His body relaxed, but his ears still responsive to every sound. You feel it too, don't you, boy? She whispers. Tomorrow we find out if all that training was worth it. As the facility settles into the quiet rhythms of night operations, no one notices Valeria Cruz accessing the security terminal during her shift, downloading critical information onto a hidden drive. Her brother will have everything he needs to overcome the checkpoint's defenses tomorrow. Scorpion Ridge will become a battleground, and the only thing standing between the cartel and complete control will be 4 dogs and their handlers, America's most unexpected warriors. Telling and preparing this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story. Dawn breaks over Scorpion Ridge with an eerie calm. Camila wakes before her alarm. Boltz already alert at her bedside. The dog's posture communicates everything. Words cannot heighten awareness. Controlled tension. Readiness, I know, boy, she murmurs, running her hand along his muscular back. Today is the day the morning briefing is tense. David Moreno has dark circles under his eyes from a night of calling contacts trying to arrange unofficial backup. Chief Brown scans the room with irritation as Camila presents her security concerns again. We've upgraded to threat level orange based on multiple indicators. She explains, pointing to the surveillance map fence testing at these 3 points. Unusual vehicle movements here and here, and communications intercepts specifically mentioning our facility. R crosses his arms, upgraded on whose authority mine. Sir Camila holds his gaze as Chief of K9 Security Operations, which falls under my command. Brown counters, we don't have the manpower or budget for elevated security protocols without concrete evidence. Jessica Williams steps forward, sir. I've compiled the communication intercepts. The pattern is consistent with pre-operation chatter we've seen before major cartel movements. Brown sighs heavily. What exactly are you proposing? Flores full security protocol, implementation, double patrols on all perimeters, K9 units on rotating tactical readiness, and we should request immediate backup from Border Patrol based on fence testing and radio chatter. Brown shakes his head. Do you know what happens when I request emergency resources and nothing materializes? Budget cuts, personnel reassignments. I can't justify it as the briefing ends. David approaches Camila. He's scared of looking foolish to his superiors, he says quietly. I'm more concerned about all of us being dead. Camila replies across the room. Valeria Cruz pretends to organize translation documents while listening intently. When no one is watching, she sends another message. Security heightened, some personnel aware. Brown resistant in the K9 training area. Mateo puts Luna through an explosive detection exercise with increasing intensity. The German Shepherd works methodically, her focus unwavering despite Mateo's obvious tension. You're pushing her too hard, Dr. Isabella observes from the door away. Not now, Doc. Matto responds, not breaking concentration. The dogs pick up on our anxiety. You know that Matto finally pauses, wiping sweat from his forehead. If what Camila suspects is true, they need to be ready for anything. And are you ready? Isabella asks gently. Combat situations can trigger. I've got it under control. He cuts her off. Luna needs me. Focused, not sedated. Isabella approaches slowly. Your PTSD doesn't make you weaker, Rivera, but ignoring it might make you vulnerable, especially if we face a crisis. Luna whines softly, sensing her handler's distress. Matto takes a deep breath, centering himself as he learned in therapy. I'll be fine, he says with more conviction. Luna and I both will at the southern checkpoint. Tyler Davis scans vehicles with increasing scrutiny. A battered truck approaches with 2 men inside. Something about their demeanor raises red flags. I need you to pull over there for secondary inspection. Tyler instructs, his hand instinctively moving closer to his sidearm. The driver complies too readily, exchanging a quick glance with his passenger that Davis doesn't miss. He radios for backup. Flores possible scout vehicle at Southgate. 2 males too. Cooperative Camila responds immediately, on my way with Boltz when the Belgian Malinois arrives at the inspection area. His reaction is immediate. He circles the vehicle with purpose, then gives his handler a specific alert, not drugs but something else. What is it, boy? Camila murmurs, trusting the dog's indication. She addresses the men directly. Step out of the vehicle. Please. The search reveals hidden compartments with surveillance, equipment, small cameras, signal boosters, and custom communication devices. They're not smuggling drugs. Camila realizes they're setting up surveillance under interrogation. The men claim ignorance, insisting they were paid to drive the truck through the checkpoint, but their nervous glances and prepared answers suggest rehearsal. David studies the equipment. These are military grade, designed to create a surveillance network. For what purpose? Tyler asks. Miller meets David's eyes to monitor our security responses, map our protocols. This confirms it. They're planning something big. Chief Brown reluctantly acknowledges the evidence but still resists a full security protocol implementation. We'll increase patrols and alert Border Patrol to be on standby. That's all I can justify in the communication center. Nathan Smith notices unusual electronic signatures around the perimeter. We've got signal interference on multiple channels. He reports someone's testing our communications infrastructure. Jessica analyzes the A pattern. It's methodical. They're identifying our secure channels, seeing which ones they can disrupt outside the main facility. Camila gathers the K9 handlers. Brown won't authorize full protocols, so we implement our own starting. Now all K9 teams operate on rotating tactical readiness 2. Teams active at all times without authorization. Sophia questions. I'll take responsibility. Camila states firmly. Matto, you and Luna take first rotation with Boltz and me. Sophia, you and James prepare for second shift with Titan and Shadow. What exactly are we preparing for? James asks, his hand unconsciously resting on Shadow's head. Worst case, a coordinated assault on multiple entry points. Camila explains. Best case. We look paranoid and Brown has ammunition for my next performance review at dusk. Unusual activity intensifies the sensor grid. Shows multiple vehicles moving on access roads. Beyond visual range, thermal imaging captures figures moving through the brush outside normal crossing points. Nathan's voice crackles over the radio. Flores. We've got communication disruption. Someone's jamming our secondary channel. Switch to emergency protocols, she orders. And get Brown in here now. As darkness falls, the first direct sign of trouble comes from the eastern perimeter. A patrol officer, radios in voice tight with tension command. We've got fence cutting in progress, Sector 7, multiple individuals, all units respond. Brown orders, finally acknowledging the threat. Davis Wilson secure the main entrance. Moreno coordinate with Border Patrol. Camila checks her tactical vest and nods to Bolt's K9 units deploying to defensive positions. The facility transforms as personnel move with practiced urgency. Security barriers are raised at key checkpoints. Electronic locks engage on secure areas, but something feels wrong to Camila. This is too obvious, she mutters to David as they move toward the command center. They know we'd respond to open fence cutting. David's expression darkens with realization. It's a diversion at that moment. The facility's main power cuts out, emergency generators kick in. But the momentary darkness is all the cartel needs. Multiple explosions rock the southern perimeter. Not massive, but precise targeting key security infrastructure. We're under attack. Brown shouts into his radio. All personnel to defensive positions in the resulting chaos. No one notices Valeria CRW accessing the security terminal, systematically disabling secondary systems throughout the facility. Security doors begin to malfunction. Camera feeds freeze or loop old footage. The coordinated sabotage is professional and devastating. Main systems compromised. Nathan reports, frantically working to isolate unaffected sectors. Someone's inside our network through the surveillance cameras. Still functioning. Camila watches with growing horror as multiple entry points are breached simultaneously. The cartel forces move with military precision, using specialized equipment to overcome security measures. They know our protocols, she realizes. They're countering each response exactly as trained in the vehicle inspection area. A maintenance truck that had been cleared earlier suddenly comes to life. The back doors burst open, revealing 6 heavily armed cartel members who immediately take up tactical positions. South entrance compromised. Tyler shouts into his radio before taking cover as bullets riddle his position. Camila turns to Matto. Implement patent. Echo, get Luna to the east wing. Intercept any forces moving toward the detention area. She looks down at Boltz, whose muscles are tense with readiness. You and me, command center, we need to secure Brown and coordinate from central as they move through the corridors. The facility has transformed into a battleground. Gunfire echoes. From multiple directions, ICE agents take defensive positions, but they're clearly outmanned and outgunned by the professional cartel forces in the eastern section. Matto and Luna encounter 3 cartel operatives attempting to access the secure detention wing. Luna responds to Mateo's silent command, moving low and fast toward the intruders. The German Shepherd launches at the lead operative, taking him down with precision as Matto engages the others. Luna's attack is not the wild lunge of a standard police dog, but the calculated take-on of a combat-trained animal. She disables without killing, targeting the arm holding the weapon before retreating to her handler's side for the next command. That's not normal dog behavior. One of The wounded cartel member gasps, "She's not a normal dog." Matto responds grimly in the central corridor. Camila and Boltz encounter heavy resistance. Cartel forces have established a firing position, blocking access to the command center. Conventional approach would be suicide pattern. Delta, Camila whispers. To Boltz without hesitation, the Belgian Malinois disappears into a ventilation access point, a route specifically incorporated into their training scenarios. Keela provides covering fire drawing the cartel's attention while Boltz navigates the facility's infrastructure moments later. Confused shouts erupt from behind the cartel position as Boltz emerges and attacks from their unprotected flank. The coordinated assault between handler and dog creates a momentary advantage that Camila exploits, allowing her to advance inside the command center. She finds Chief Brown coordinating what remains of the facility's defense they've taken. The south and west sections, he reports grimly. Communications are limited to internal systems. We've got at least 20 armed hostiles inside. The perimeter may be more outside. Where's Moreno securing the evidence lockup? They seem particularly interested in it. Camila scans the security feed still functioning. This isn't a typical BAID look at their movement patterns, their equipment. They're securing the facility, not just breaching it. Why would they want to hold the checkpoint? Brown asks. Permanent smuggling corridor. Camila explains, take the facility intact. Use our infrastructure and legitimacy to move product through unchallenged. It's what Emilio Cruz has wanted for years. The mention of Cruz causes a subtle reaction from Valeria, who stands nearby, seemingly helping with communications. Boltz notices immediately, his attention shifting to her with focused intensity. What is it, boy? Camila asks, following his gaze. Valeria's hand moves slightly toward her pocket. Boltz growls a low, threatening sound that stops her instantly. Call off your dog, Valeria says, her accent suddenly more pronounced. Camila's eyes narrow. Boltz doesn't alert on people unless there's a reason. Empty your pocket slowly under the Belgian Malinois unwavering stare. Valeria reluctantly produces a hidden communication device. Not standard ICE equipment. She's with them. Camila realizes that's how they knew our protocols before anyone can react. Another explosion rocks the facility, larger than the others. Through the remaining camera feeds, they watch in horror as a heavily armored vehicle breaches the main gate. Command center report. David's voice crackles through the radio. We've got multiple hostages taken in the processing area. They're using them as shields from the vehicle emerges. Emilio Cruz flanked by El Tigre and a dozen heavily armed cartel soldiers. His expression is triumphant as he surveys the facility. Scorpion ridges now Los Zorros territory, he announces to his men. Secure all remaining personnel. I want this facility operational under our control within the hour. In the command center, Brown stares at the monitors in disbelief. We're overrun. We need to evacuate critical personnel and wait for Border Patrol reinforcements. Reinforcements won't get here in time. Camila counters, checking her ammunition. And I'm not abandoning this facility to the cartel. What's your alternative? We're outmanned, outgunned, and compromised from within. He gestures at Valeria, now restrained. Camila looks down at Boltz, who stands ready beside her. We still have our K9 units, and they haven't seen what these dogs can really do. She activates her radio, switching to a frequency they have reserved for K9 operations. All K9 handlers. Implement protocol, Omega. I repeat, protocol. Omega is now active throughout the facility. The remaining K9 handlers exchange grim looks, understanding exactly what Camila is authorizing. Protocol Omega is something they've trained for but hope never to implement. The full tactical deployment of all K9 assets as an integrated combat force. You're talking about sending dogs against armed cartel killers. Brown objects, not just dogs. Camila corrects him. Military-trained K9 tactical teams with handlers who know exactly what they're doing. On surveillance feeds, they watch as Sophia and Titan take position near the processing area where hostages are held. Mateo and Luna secure their section of the east wing. James and Shadow move silently toward the south entrance. This is insanity, Brown mutters. This is our only chance. Camila responds, checking Boltz's tactical vest. One last time, you haven't seen what these dogs can do when the situation calls for it outside. Emilio Cruz directs his forces with the confidence of someone who believes victory is already secured. Once we control the entire facility, bring in the first shipment, he orders. Eltigre by morning I want Los Zorros flags flying and our product moving through Eltigre nods, then hesitates in the K9 unit. Our intel says they're specially trained. Dogs are still just dogs. Emilio dismisses no matter how well tread they bleed. Like anything else inside the command center, Siller finishes securing Valeria before turning to Brown. Keep her contained and monitor what communications you can. We're going to take back this facility one section at a time. How Brown demanded. They've got superior numbers, heavy weapons, and hostages. Camila checks her sidearm one last time because they made one critical mistake. They thought they were attacking a border checkpoint. She looks down at Boltz, who stands ready for her command. They didn't realize they were walking into a war with the most effective tactical K9 unit on the border. With that, she and Boltz slip out of the command center into the chaos of the overrun facility. Throughout the checkpoint, the other handlers and their dogs prepare to implement Protocol Omega, a coordinated K9 tactical response that will transform the entire facility into a battlefield where Los Zorros' superior numbers may not be enough to secure their victory. Emilio Cruz surveys his conquest with satisfaction, unaware that the most dangerous defenders of Scorpion Ridge are only now entering. The fight darkness shrouds the corridors of Scorpion Ridge as Camila and Boltz navigate through the facility's service passageways every few meters. She pauses, allowing the Belgian Malinois to check for threats ahead. Their movement is silent, coordinated, the product of countless training hours and combat experience through her earpiece. Camila hears the scattered reports from around the checkpoint. The cartel has established control over the main entrance, the processing area, and most of the administrative section. Hostages, mostly administrative personnel, and detained migrants are being gathered in the main processing hall. Status report. She whispers into her radio. East wing partially secured. Mateo responds, his voice tight but controlled. Luna and I have neutralized 3 Tango moving toward detention area. South access still compromised. Sophia reports Titan and I are in position to observe the hostage situation, counting 12 armed men, approximately 20 hostages. James report Camila Coles, met with static fear, grips her until a whispered response finally comes. Shadow and I are pinned down near the vehicle inspection bay. Heavy presence, their unloading equipment looks like they're setting up for long-term occupation. Camila processes this information, formulating a plan. All K9 units, we implement Protocol Omega in phases. Phase 1, reconnaissance and isolation. Identify cartel leadership and communications infrastructure. Do not engage unless compromised. Boltz suddenly freezes, ears forward. Seconds later, Camila hears footsteps approaching, a patrol of 3 cartel soldiers checking the maintenance corridors. She signals to Boltz with a hand gesture so subtle it would be missed by anyone not specifically trained to watch. For it, the Belgian Malinois slips ahead, disappearing into the shadows. Sila draws back, finding cover when the patrol rounds the corner. They never see the attack coming. Boltz strikes silently, targeting the lead man's weapon arm with precision as the others react. Camila emerges, neutralizing the remaining threats with practiced efficiency. These aren't street thugs, she murmured. Murs, examining their tactical gear. Ex-military, maybe police in the East Wing. Matto and Luna encounter a different challenge. 4 cartel members have cornered 2 ICE agents in the evidence room from his position. Mateo can see the agents are wounded but alive. His breathing quickens as the scenario triggers. Memories the compound in Helmand Province, Tra Marines, the ambush that nearly killed his entire unit. Luna whines softly, pressing against his leg. The sensation grounds him, pulling him back to the present. He strokes her head once, centering himself. We got this, girl, he whispers. Matto activates a small device on his belt. A specialized sonic emitter designed to mask Luna's approach when he gives the command. The German Shepherd moves like water through the ship. Shadows approaching the cartel position from behind at precisely the right moment. Matto creates a distraction by rolling a spent shell casing across the floor. When the cartel members turn toward the noise, Luna strikes. Her attack is not frenzied but surgical, disabling the rear guard silently before Matto engages the others. The entire operation takes less than 30 seconds. You okay? He asked the wounded agents as he helps them to their feet. How did you? Day 1 begins staring at Luna with newfound respect. She was a Marine before she was a border doog. Matto explained simply, and Marines never leave anyone behind near the processing area. Sophia and Titan observe the hostage situation with growing concern, El Tigre personally oversees the operation, his reputation for brutality evident in how he casually strikes a hostage. Who moves too slowly? I count 23 hostages, 12. Tango, heavily armed, Sophia reports quietly. El Tigre's present, no sign of Cruz yet. Hold position, Camila instructs. We need to locate Cruz before we make any major moves in the command center, Chief. Brown watches the remaining security feeds with David Moreno. The veteran agent expression is grim but composed. Your K9 teams are impressive. Brown admits reluctantly as they observe Mateo's rescue operation. But they can't retake the entire facility. They don't need to. David responds, they just need to disrupt cartel operations long enough for reinforcements to arrive. He checks his watch. Border Patrol should be assembling a response team by now. If they can get through, Brown points out Los Zorros likely has the access roads monitored. A sudden commotion draws their attention. To one of the monitors, Emelo Cruz has entered the administrative section. Surrounded by guards, he inspects the facility with proprietary satisfaction, pausing at the CBP emblem on the wall. Take that down, he orders one of his men. From now on, this is Los Zorros territory in the vehicle inspection area. James struggles to maintain his position as cartel members unload equipment from their vehicles. Shadow, the wounded warrior, remains perfectly still beside him, waiting for commands despite his injuries from a previous operation. The black German shepherd shows no hesitation, only disciplined patience. Command, we've got a problem. James whispers into his radio. They're setting up heavy weapons. Looks like they're preparing for a potential external assault. Can you disable any of it? Camila asks. James studies the situation, not without being spotted. There are too many of them. Hold position and continue observation. We need to coordinate all our assets before we make significant moves. In the eastern corridor, Camila and Boltz encounter Tyler Davis, the young recruit who has managed to evade capture. His uniform is stained with blood from a graze wound to his shoulder. Flores, he whispers with relief. They're everywhere, military. Tactics, coordinated movements. Are you operational? She asks, checking his wound. Yes, ma'am. What's the plan? We're implementing protocol. Omega, I need you to reach the security hub and assist Nathan. He's trying to restore our systems through all of that. Tyler gestures toward the cartel-controlled sections. Camila glances at Bolt's heel. Guide you emergency route, Bravo. Tyler looks skeptical but not. Camila gives Boltz a specific hand signal and the dog immediately takes point position, leading Tyler toward a ventilation access point, one of several alternative routes they had mapped during training exercises. He knows the way. Tyler asks incredulously. Better than you do. Camila confirms. Stay close and do exactly what he indicates as they disappear into the facility's infrastructure. Camila moves toward the detention area where she suspects Cruz will eventually head the cartel. Leader will want to assess any high-value detainees for potential leverage or elimination in the processing area. Elra grows impatient. He grabs a female hostage, pressing his pistol against her temple. Listen to me, he announces to the terrified group. Your situation is simple. Cooperate, and you live to see the new management of this facility. Resist, and you become examples. Sophia watches from her hidden position. Titan tense beside her. The Dutch Shepherd has been bred and trained for exactly this scenario. Hostage situations requiring precise intervention. But timing is critical. Moving too soon would endanger the hostage's command. Elra is escalating. We may need to intervene soon. Hold position. Camila instructs. We need to coordinate all teams for maximum effect in the vehicle. Bay James notices a critical vulnerability in the cartel's position. Their heavy weapons are being set up, but the power supply, a portable generator, remains exposed. If disabled, it would significantly hamper their defensive capabilities. Shadow, mark and track, he whispers, pointing to the generator. The German Shepherd's eyes lock onto the target, understanding the instruction. James then gives a hand signal and Shadow slips away, moving with incredible stealth. Despite his previous injuries, the dog navigates between vehicles and equipment invisible to the cartel members focused on their tasks. When Shadow reaches the generator, he waits, looking back at James for the final command. James hesitates, calculating timing, then signals. Shadow immediately disables the power connection with surgical precision, a technique specifically taught for sabotage operations. Seconds later, Confusion erupts as the cartel's equipment loses power. James uses the distraction to change position shadow, returning to his side like a shadow command, heavy weapons temporarily disabled. In the vehicle bay recommend coordinated action while they're in disarray. Camila recognizes the opportunity. All K9 units proceed to phase. 2 priority targets. Communications equipment and command structure create maximum confusion throughout the facility. The K9 teams spring into action simultaneously in the East Wing Motto and Luna target the cartel's communication hub, disrupting their ability to coordinate in the south section. James and Shadow continue sabotaging equipment, creating chaos. Near the processing area, Sophia gives Titan the command they've practiced countless times: scatter and control. The Dutch Shepherd moves, with incredible speed, bursting into the hostage area. Not to attack directly, but to create strategic chaos. He knocks over equipment, disrupts formations, and then targets specific cartel members, not with lethal force but with calculating precision that separates them from the hostage group in the resulting confusion. Sophia enters from another angle, helping hostages escape through a service corridor. El Tigre roars with fury, firing wildly as his carefully controlled operation descends into chaos. The dogs, he shouts into his radio, find the handlers and kill them. In the command center, Brown watches the coordinated K9 operation with growing respect. They're actually doing it, he murmurs. They're disrupting the entire cartel force. David nods grimly. This is what Flores has been training them for, not just border security. Worst-case scenarios, Border Patrol is reporting resistance on access roads. Nathan reports from his station cartel roadblocks. They're trying to find alternative routes. We need to buy them time. Brown realizes. He turns to David. How can we help Flores and her team? We restore what systems we can. David suggests and prepare to take back control once they've created enough disruption in the detention area. Emelo Cruz inspects the captured migrants and suspected cartel rivals with cold calculation. This one, he points to a man who shrinks back in terror. He's Sin, a lower informant. Make sure he doesn't leave alive before his men can comply. The lights flicker. Cruz frowns, activating his radio report. We're under attack. Comes the frantic response. The dogs, they're everywhere. Not just attacking, sabotaging, coordinating dogs. Cruz spits the word with contempt. Kill them. We're trying. They're not operating like normal K9 units. They're using tactics. The transmission cuts off. Cruz's expression darkens. Secure this area. No one enters without my authorization. As his men take positions, they fail to notice the ventilation grate above them, slowly opening elsewhere in the facility. Matto and Luna have successfully disrupted the cartel's communications hub. But the victory comes with a cost. Matto leg has been injured in the exchange of fire as he limps toward a secure location. Luna stays close, helping him maintain balance. Command comms hub neutralized, he reports, but I'm wounded, mobility compromised. How bad? Camila asks. I'll manage. Luna's still operational. Can you reach extraction? Point Delta. Mateo looks down at his bleeding leg, then at Luna, whose eyes reflect unwavering loyalty. Affirmative. We'll get there. In the main corridor, a group of cartel soldiers moves in tactical formation, searching for the K9 teams that have thrown their operation into chaos. Their night vision equipment gives them confidence as they clear each section. Command said these dogs are different. One man whispers nervously. They're still just animals. The leader dismisses. Stay in formation and watch the high ground. None of them think to look up from his hiding place in the ceiling infrastructure. Tyler watches in amazement as Boltz leads him through the maze of maintenance passages that honeycomb the facility. The Belgian Malinois moves with quiet confidence, constantly checking back to ensure his temporary partner follows. I had no idea these routes existed. Tyler whispers as they bypass a heavily guarded corridor when they finally reach the security hub. Nathan greets them with visible relief. About time, the systems are starting to respond. But I need help reconfiguring the surveillance grid. What exactly are we trying to do? Tyler asks. Still trying to process the situation, create blind spots where our teams are operating while restoring visibility everywhere else. Nathan explains Camila's teams are creating chaos, but they need information to coordinate their next moves in the processing area. Sophia has successfully extracted 14 hostages, but the situation deteriorates as Elra goes berserk, threatening to execute the remaining captives unless the dogs are called off command. El-Ray is losing control. She reports urgently. 9 hostages still in the processing area. He's threatening immediate execution. Can Titan create another diversion? Camila asks, negative. They're too prepared. Now we need a different approach. Camila weighs her options. Hold. Position I'm moving to support as she navigates toward the processing area. Camila encounters David, who has left the command center to join the active response. I thought you were coordinating with Brown, she says with surprise. Brown is handling what's left of our communications. I'm more useful here. The veteran agent checks his weapon. What's the plan? Elra is threatening to execute hostages. We need a precision extraction. David nods. I know a way to the overlooking gallery sniper position. Good, I'll create a distraction at ground level. We'll need perfect timing in the detention area. Cruz grows increasingly agitated as reports of chaos throughout the facility pour in. The K9 teams have disrupted his carefully planned operation, creating pockets of resistance where there should be complete control. Find Blores, he instructs his lieutenant. She's the key. Without her, the dogs are just dogs. Unknown to Cruz, Camila is already implementing the next phase of protocol. Omega, the K9 teams, have successfully created enough disruption to throw the cartel forces into disarray. Now comes the coordinated counterattack. All units prepare for Phase 3. She broadcasts synchronized strikes in 30 seconds. Priority targets are marked throughout the facility. The remaining K9 handlers prepare for simultaneous action. Despite being outnumbered, they've managed to turn the tactical situation to their advantage through the specialized capabilities of their K9 partners in the security hub. Nathan and Tyler restore critical systems, giving Camila eyes on the entire facility. We've got control of the surveillance grid, Nathan reports, and I've isolated a secure communication channel. Border Patrol reports they're 20 minutes out, still working through cartel roadblocks we need to hold. Until then, Camila acknowledges all units execute Phase 3 on my mark in the processing area. Elra holds a young woman at gunpoint, his patience exhausted. I want the dog handlers, he shouts to his men. Find them now, or the hostages start dying from her position. Sophia watches Titan coiled beside her like a spring in the overlooking gallery. David takes aim, waiting for Camila's signal. 3, 2, 1, mark. Camila's voice comes through the secured channel across the facility. Coordinated chaos erupts as the K9 team strike simultaneously James and Shadow target the cartel's remaining heavy weapons. Matto and Luna, despite his injury, disable the backup generator, and in the processing area, Titan bursts into action with precise, lie-timed ferocity. The Dutch Shepherd doesn't attack Elra directly, that would endanger the hostage. Instead, he targets the cartel enforcer's exposed leg with surgical precision, causing him to lose balance without releasing his hostage. In that critical moment of disruption, David takes his shot, disabling ELR's weapon arm, seeing their leader fall. The remaining cartel members hesitate just long enough for Sophia to move in, securing the hostages. Titan continues his calculated harassment, not killing, but controlling, separating the threats from the civilians with tactical precision. In the detention area, Cruz hears the report of El Tigre's fall. With cold fury, Scorpion Ridge will still be ours, he declares, even if we have to burn it to the ground. He turns to his lieutenant, issuing new orders. Implement contingency plan. Plan if we can't hold the facility, no one will. As the lieutenant moves to comply, a low growl emerges from the shadows above. Cruz looks up just in time to see bolts dropping from the ceiling vent, black blur of military-trained muscle targeting him with unerring precision protocol. Omega Phase 3 is complete. The K9 teams have successfully thrown the entire cartel operation into disarray, but Cruz's contingency plan represents a new and deadly threat, one that could endanger everyone within Scorpion Ridge cartel and defenders alike. Emelo Cruz hits the ground hard as Boltz's powerful jaws clamp around his forearm. Not crushing but controlling, the Belgian Malinois attack is precisely calibrated. Disabling without maiming, Cruz's bodyguards reach for their weapons, but Camila emerges from the shadows, her aim unwavering. Tell your men to drop their weapons, she orders, or the next command I give Boltz won't be so gentle. Cruz stares at the dog, with a mixture of pain and fascination. So these are the famous military dogs, he manages through gritted teeth, impressive weapons down. Now the cartel leader nods almost imperceptibly and his men comply as they secured. Camila maintains her focus on Krabayu's, knowing his reputation for strategic thinking. Your operation is falling apart, she informs him. Elra has been neutralized. Your communications are compromised. Border Patrol will be here within minutes. Cruz smiles. Despite his situation, you think capturing me ends this. Los Zorros have invested too much in Scorpion Ridge. The contingency plan is already in motion. A chill runs through Camila. What contingency plan? Insurance. Cruz replies calmly. If Los Zorros can't have this checkpoint, no one will. My men have planted explosive devices throughout the facility, enough to reduce Scorpion Ridge to rubble. Camila signals Boltz to maintain his hold while she retrieves Cruz's radio. Call it off. Impossible, the detonation sequence is already programmed. Only my lieutenant has the abort codes and he's currently making his exit. Cruz's smile widens. You have perhaps 20 minutes before this becomes the largest border incident in U.S. history in the security hub. Nathan's system alerts begin flashing, detecting multiple thermal anomalies in the infrastructure. He reports urgently consistent with explosive devices. Can you pinpoint locations? Camila asks through her radio. Working on it. PR preliminary scan shows devices in the main support pillars, communications array, and power generation systems. Professional placement. Camila processes this information rapidly. All units, we have a new threat. Explosive devices. Throughout the facility, protocol Omega shifts to Phase 4. Explosive detection and neutralization in the East Wing. Mateo straightens despite his injured leg. Copy that Luna is EOD certified. The German Shepherd perks up at the change in her handler's tone, immediately shifting into explosive detection posture. Head to the main support structures, Camila instructs. Nathan will guide you to the thermal signatures. Sophia secures the last of the cartel members in the processing area. Titan standing. Guard processing area contained. Moving to communications array with Titan. James status south section, secure Shadow, and I will check power systems. Camila turns her attention back to Cruz. Your lieutenant, where would he go by now? Halfway to Mexico. The cartel leader's confidence suggests otherwise. Boltz growls softly. Sensing Camila's tension, she studies Cruz's expression, noting the subtle tell, his eyes flicking briefly toward the west exit. Nathan checks a valence on the west exit. Cruz's lieutenant may be headed there with abort codes for the explosive IES checking. Now got him male tactical gear, moving purposefully toward the vehicle compound. All units be advised, priority target moving to west exit, likely carrying explosive abort. Codes capture essential. David's voice comes through. I'm closest, moving to intercept throughout the facility. The atmosphere shifts from combat to crisis management. The K9 teams transition seamlessly from tactical assault to their secondary specializations. Luna, with her explosive detection training, leads Matto through corridors despite his injury. Her nose working methodically to locate the hidden devices. First device located. Matto reports examining the sophisticated explosive military-grade remote detonation capability with backup timer. I need EOD support. Tyler, Camila calls you. Had bomb squad cross-training. Correct? Basic level. Yes, the young agent confirms. Get to Mateo's position. Luna will have identified the device configuration by then. In the communications array, Sophia and Titan locate 2 more devices. These are positioned to take out our entire communication infrastructure. She reports professional placement, same with the power systems. James adds as Shadow alerts to another. Explosive. They knew exactly where to hit us in the command center. Brown coordinates with approaching Border Patrol units. Be advised. We have an explosive threat within the facility. Stand by for further instructions before attempting entry. Nathan continues scanning the facility systems. I'm detecting a central detonation controller, likely on Cruz's lieutenant at the west exit. David positions himself to intercept the fleeing lieutenant. The cartel officer moves with mill precision, checking corners and maintaining awareness clearly. Ex-Special Forces when he approaches the final corridor. David makes his move. Federal agent hands where I can see them. The lieutenant reacts with explosive speed, drawing his weapon and firing in one fluid motion. David takes cover, outgunned and out-P positioned. The lieutenant uses the opportunity to continue toward the exit. Target is escaping through West Corridor. David reports wincing as a bullet chips concrete near his head. Cannot pursue without backup. Camila makes a split-second decision. Tyler continued to Mateo's position. Nathan guides James and Shadow to intercept the lieutenant from the south access point. She turns to Cruz, securing him to a support pillar. Boltz guard the command. Is unnecessary. The Belgian Malinois would never abandon his post. But the demonstration of control reminds Crew new of his precarious position. You're making a mistake, Cruz warns as Camila prepares to leave. That man was Zeta's special forces before joining Los Zorros. Your dogs can't handle him. You still don't understand what these dogs are capable of. Camila replies before disappearing into the corridor in the east wing. Luna leads Mato to a second explosive device the German Shepherd's training allows her to detect not just the explosive material, but the specific components of the device. Knowledge she communicates through precise behavioral cues. Timer active, Mateo reports after examining it. 15 minutes remaining. Tyler arrives, breathing heavily from his sprint across the facility. I'm here. What are we looking at? C4 with redundant detonation systems. We need to identify the primary circuit without triggering secondaries. Luna watches intently as they work, occasionally offering soft whines that Mato has learned to interpret from their years of partnership. When Tyler reaches for the wrong wire, Luna makes a specific sound that causes Mato to grab the agent's wrist. Not that one, he says with certainty. Luna says it's connected to a secondary trigger. Tyler looks skeptical but defers to the handler's judgment as they carefully trace the circuitry. Luna's behavior proves correct. The wire Tyler had been about to cut would have accelerated the detonation near the west. Exit. James positions Shadow at a junction where the lieutenant must pass the black German Shepherd. Despite his previous injuries, shows no hesitation as he takes his surveillance position. Target approaching your position. Nathan guides. Through the radio, armed and dangerous, considered explosive risk. James gives Shadow a hand signal. That means capture and hold, a command the dog has executed flawlessly in countless border pursuits. When the lieutenant rounds the corner, Shadow launches into action. The lieutenant fires wildly as the German Shepherd closes the distance with astonishing speed. Though one bullet grazes Shadow's flank, the dog doesn't after executing a take-on maneuver that targets the lieutenant's gun arm first, then secures him by the leg, preventing escape without causing life-threatening injury. James moves in, quickly securing the detonator controller from the lieutenant's vest. Target contained. I have what appears to be the detonation controller. Do not attempt to disarm, Camila warns arriving moments later. We need the abort codes. She addresses the lieutenant directly. The explosives. How do we stop them? The man's eyes burn with hatred. You're too late. The system is already counting down. Only the master code can stop it now. Camila looks at the controller, a sophisticated military device with an encrypted keypad. Nathan, I need your expertise on this. We've recovered the controller, but it needs an abort code. Bring it to the security hub. Nathan responds, I might be able to bypass the encryption throughout the facility. The K9 teams continue locating explosive devices. Luna's detection capabilities prove invaluable, allowing them to find even the most cleverly concealed charges. Titan helps clear the processing area, ensuring no hostages remain in danger zones. Shadow, despite his wound, continues securing detained cartel members in the detention area. Camila secures crews for transport. Your plan failed, she informs him. You are captured. Your lieutenant is contained, and we found your explosives. But can you disarm them? All in time, Cruz maintains his composure. My lieutenant was the only one with the abort code, and he won't talk, not even under threat of imprisonment. Cruz's confidence gives Camila pause. There's something else, isn't there? Something you're not telling me in the security hub. Nathan examines the detonation controller with growing concern. This is military grade, designed for special forces operations. The encryption is beyond anything I've seen in cartel operations. Can you bypass it, Camila asks, arriving with Boltz. Not in the time we have left. We need the code. Nathan looks at the captured lieutenant, who sits handcuffed and silent, and he's not talking. Camila studies the controller, then looks at Boltz. A thought forms. The dogs found the explosives by scent, by recognizing the chemical components. Yes, but how does that help us with the code? Camila approaches the lieutenant. The controller. You've handled it regularly, maintained it, programmed it. Your scent is all over it. Especially on the keys you use most frequently. The lieutenant's expression flickers with understanding and concern. Boltz Camila commands. Trace the Belgian Malinois approach is the controller nose working meticulously over the keypad, his specialized scent. Discrimination training developed for tracking specific individuals through contaminated environments allows him to detect the subtle differences in oils left by fingerprints. He alerts on 4 specific buttons in a particular sequence that's it. Camila realizes the abort code uses those 4 digits likely in the sequence. Boltz indicated Nathan Troom. Try it. Nathan enters the sequence. The controller beeps once, and then displays partial code, accepted secondary authentication required. It needs more. Nathan says, frustrated. Camila thinks quickly. You said the explosives were placed in key structural points. How many devices have we located? 7 confirmed, possibly more. And they all connect to this controller. Try adding the number of devices to the end of the sequence. Nathan enters the additional digits. The screen flashes. Abort sequence initiated. Confirmation. Required 1 more step. He says it needs final confirmation. The lieutenant smirks. Despite his situation, which you'll never figure out. Camila studies the controller, then notices something, a slight discoloration on one corner, where repeated handling has worn away the finish. The location would match where someone would place their thumb when entering the final confirmation. Try the top right button. She suggests. The wear pattern suggests frequent use. Nathan presses it after a tense moment. The display shows detonation sequence aborted, all devices deactivated throughout the facility. The K9 teams confirm. The devices have powered down. Luna's behavior changes as the explosive signatures shift from active to inert. Titan and Shadow similarly alert their handlers to the change in threat status. All devices confirmed inactive. Matto reports with relief, patting Luna's head gratefully in the command center. Brown coordinates the final stages of the facilities. Recovery Border Patrol units are entering the perimeter. Medical teams standing by. Camila returns to Cruz, who appears is genuinely surprised by the turn of events. Impossible. He mutters. The system was foolproof. You made one critical mistake. Camila tells him you underestimated what these dogs can do. They're not just animals, they're trained. Specialists with capabilities. Beyond conventional K9 units as Border Patrol secures the facility perimeter, the full extent of Los Zorros' operation becomes clear. Documents recover CED from Cruz reveal a sophisticated plan to establish permanent control over Scorpion Ridge, creating a cartel-run border crossing that would have generated millions in smuggling revenue in the medical area. Dr. Isabella treats the wounded handlers and dogs. Matto winces as she cleans his leg wound. Lucky shot, Isabella comments. It missed major arteries. Wasn't luck. Matto replies, looking at Luna, who refuses to leave his side. She pushed me aside when the shooter appeared, took a bullet that would have hit something vital. Isabella smiles. Then I have 2 patients to thank for surviving. She gently examines Luna, whose earnest eyes never leave Matto. Her training saved both of you. Shadow's wound proves superficial, though James fusses over the German Shepherd like a worried parent. He didn't even flinch when the bullet hit him. James tells David just completed his mission, like it was nothing. That's what makes these dogs special. David replies they understand duty in a way some humans never grasp as the medical team works. Camila makes her rounds, checking on each K9 team. When she reaches Boltz, she kneels beside him, pressing her forehead against his good boy. She whispers, emotion finally breaking through her professional composure. You saved everyone. Border Patrol Captain Anderson approaches, surveying the aftermath with amazement. I've worked the border for 20 years. He tells Camila, never seen anything like this. Your K9 unit took down an entire cartel assault force. They did what they were trained to do. Camila responds simply, that's not standard. K9 training. Anderson observes the tactical coordination. The specialized responses, that's something else entirely. Camila watches as her teams continue securing the facility, each dog working with perfect discipline despite the chaos they've endured. They're veterans. She explains most served in combat zones before coming here. We just adapted their military training to border operations inside the command center. Border Patrol intelligence officers debrief Brown on the implications of Cruz's capture. This is the biggest blow to Los Zorros in years. An intelligence officer explains crews controlled their entire border operation, with him and Elra in custody. Plus the evidence recovered here, we're looking at the potential dismantling of their smuggling infrastructure. Brown nods his earlier skepticism replaced by newfound respect. None of this would have happened without Flores and her K9 unit. Speaking of which the officer continues, we've received inquiries from multiple agencies about her training, her protocols. What you've developed here is revolutionary in terms of tactical K9 deployment. As night gives way to dawn, Scorpion Ridge begins its recovery. The facility bears the scars of battle, bullet holes in walls, damaged equipment, bloodstains on floors. But unlike Cruz's vision, the American flag still flies above the checkpoint in a secure holding area. Cruz awaits transport to a federal detention center. Camila makes one final visit, Boltz at her side. I underestimated you, Cruz admits, and your dogs, everyone does. Camila replies, that's part of our advantage. Cruz studies Boltz with newfound respect. He's more than just an animal, isn't he? He's a soldier, Camila says simply. And my partner as federal agents arrive to transport Cruz. Camila feels Boltz tense beside her. The Belgian Malinois stares down the corridor with focused intensity, his posture signaling a threat that human senses haven't yet detected. What is it, boy? She asks quietly. Instantly alert, Boltz's behavior indicates danger. Not immediate, but present. Something isn't over yet. D illuminates the battle-scarred Scorpion Ridge facility as emergency vehicles fill the parking areas. Medical personnel treat wounded agents and detained cartel members alike. FBI evidence response teams document the scene, photographing bullet impacts and collecting shell casings that tell the story of the night's conflict. Boltz remains fixated on the eastern corridor, his body language communicating urgency without sound. Camila trusts this silent alarm implicitly. Nathan checks surveillance on the east wing. She orders through her radio. Boltz is alerting to something. Cameras in that section were damaged during the firefight. Nathan responds, blind spot. David, I need backup at Cruz's holding area. Something's not right. David arrives moments later, weapon ready. What have? We got unknown threat east corridor. Boltz made it before anyone else could. Cruz watches their exchange with renewed interest. So my sister didn't fail completely. Camila's attention snaps to him. Explain, Valeria wouldn't be our only insurance policy. Cruz replies calmly. Loros never relies on a single contingency. Realization strikes. Camila. There's another insider, she signals to Boltz, giving him a command developed specifically for human tracking through contaminated environments. The Belgian Malinois moves with methodical precision, working the air currents in a systematic pattern at the junction leading to the evidence room. He alerts David with me. Nathan, lockdown protocols on the evidence storage already compromised. Nathan reports with alarm. Door security shows unauthorized access. 3 minutes ago. The evidence room houses not just documentation from the night's events but also seized cartel intelligence from previous operations. Names of informants, smuggling routes, corruption networks in the wrong hands. It could devastate border security operations and endanger countless lives. Camila and David approach tactically, Boltz taking point inside the evidence room. They find Tyler Davis removing hard drives and documents, stuffing them into a bag with practiced efficiency. Federal agents' hands where I can see them. David orders. Tyler freezes momentarily, then reaches for his weapon before he can draw. Boltz launches forward, not with the full aggression of a combat engagement, but with calculated restraint, knocking the young agent off balance and disarming him without serious injury. I trusted you, Camila says, securing Tyler as Boltz maintains his hold. Why? Tyler's youthful face hardens with unexpected coldness. Los Zorros pays better than government salary. Cruz recruited me straight out of the academy, offered to clear my family's debts, so everything. Your enthusiasm about the K9 program, your dedication. Good acting. Tyler smirks. Though I'll admit, I underestimated the dogs. Nobody told me they were this advanced. David secures the evidence materials. How many other insiders are there? Tyler remains silent, but Boltz's continued alertness suggests the threat isn't fully contained. Nathan. Check personnel files. Who else started within 6 months of Tyler's arrival working on it? Wait, something's happening. In the medical area. In the medical section, Dr. Isabella attends to Shadow's wound when a maintenance worker enters, pushing a cart of supplies. Something about his movement pattern catches her attention. The deliberate scanning of the room, the tension. In his shoulders, years of working with tactical teams has honed her instincts. "Can I help you?" she asks discreetly, pressing the silent alarm under the examination table. "Routine maintenance." The man replies, his accent subtly inconsistent with his previous interactions. His hand moves slowly toward the cart. James notices immediately years of handler training, making him sensitive to environmental changes. He gives Shadow a subtle hand signal, a movement so slight it appears natural to the untrained eye. The worker pulls a concealed weapon from beneath the maintenance supplies, but before he can aim, Shadow, despite his injury, executes a perfect flanking maneuver, approaching from the man's blind spot and disabling him with a controlled bite to the forearm. "Secure." James shouts. The security personnel rush in. POS, possible hostile. The maintenance worker's identification card reads, Juan Mendez, a legitimate employee who security cameras later show was ambushed and replaced during the initial chaos under the uniform. The imposter carries Los Zorros tattoos and military identification, suggesting former Mexican special forces throughout the facility. Similar scenarios unfold as Camila implements the full security sweep. Mato and Luna uncover a communications technician attempting to install surveillance equipment in the command center. Sophia and Titan identify a border patrol officer whose behavior deviates from operational protocols. Another cartel imposter using the confusion to infiltrate. They had a second wave planned, David realizes as they catalog the captured operatives using the chaos of the first assault to insert deep cover agents. Not just agents. Camila adds, sophisticated surveillance systems long-term. Intelligence gathering capabilities. They were preparing for a sustained campaign against border operations in the security hub. Nathan and Jessica review personnel files and security footage. 7 confirmed imposters among the emergency responders. Jessica reports all with legitimate credentials. Somehow check Tyler's access logs. Camila instructs, see what systems he's been accessing in the weeks leading up to this. The investigation reveals a disturbing pattern. Tyler had been systematically downloading personnel files, security protocols, and facility schematics for months, preparing the groundwork for the Los Zorros operation. He was their primary intelligence source. Nathan confirms, but Valeria was their facilitator, the one who could move freely. Thanks to her translator credentials in the secure debriefing room, FBI agent Wilson interviews Camila about the K9 unit's unprecedented performance. Your dogs operated with tactical coordination. I've only seen in special forces teams. Wilson observes, how is that possible? They were all military working dogs before joining Border Patrol. Camila explains Boltz completed 3 combat tours with Army Rangers. Luna was EOD and the Marines with Mato Titan served with special forces, and Shadow was a Navy SEAL team dog before his injury. But standard protocol is to retire military dogs from tactical operations when they transfer to civilian agencies. Standard protocol underutilizes their capabilities. Camila counters these. Dogs haven't forgotten their combat training. We simply adapted it to board security challenges, maintained their tactical edge. Wilson reviews footage of the K9 teams in action, their coordinated movements, situational awareness, and handler integration, far exceeding traditional law enforcement K9 standards. What you've developed here could revolutionize tactical K9 deployment across multiple agencies. Wilson acknowledges the cartel never expected to face this level of resistance at the medical center. Dr. Isabella completes treating the injured G9 team members. Mato sits beside Luna's bed, the German Shepherd's leg bandaged where she took a bullet meant for him. She'll need 2 weeks of limited duty. Isabella advises the wound is clean. No, major tissue damage. She saved my life. Mato says quietly again. Isabella places a hand on his shoulder. And you got her through this mission, despite your own injury. That's what partnership means. Shadow's wound proves minor, though James refuses to leave the German Shepherd's side during treatment. He took down that imposter. Despite being injured, James tells Sophia proudly, never hesitated, they never do. Sophia agrees, stroking Titan's head. The Dutch Shepherd remains alert, despite exhaustion, his tactical discipline undiminished by the night's events in the command center. Chief Brown coordinates with federal agencies now swarming the facility. His earlier skepticism has transformed into vocal support for the K-9 program. What Flores and her team accomplished should be the model for all border security operations. He tells the FBI tactical commander, without those dogs, we'd be cleaning up bodies instead of evidence routine maintenance. The man replies his act, and subtly inconsistent. With his previous interactions, his hand moves slowly toward the cart. James notices immediately years of handler training. Making him sensitive to environmental changes, he gives Shadow a subtle hand signal, a movement so slight it appears natural. To the untrained eye, the worker pulls a concealed weapon from beneath the maintenance supplies. But before he can aim, Shadow, despite his injury, execute a perfect flanking maneuver, approaching from the man's blind spot and disabling him with a controlled bite to the forearm secure. James shouts a security personnel rush in possible hostile. The maintenance worker's identification card reads, Juan Mendez, a legitimate employee whose security cameras later show was ambushed and replaced during the initial chaos under the uniform. The imposter carries Los Zorros tattoos and military identification, suggesting former Mexican special forces throughout the facility. Similar scenarios unfold as Camila implements a full security sweep. Mato and Luna uncover a communications technician attempting to install surveillance equipment in the command center. Sophia and Titan identify a border patrol officer whose behavior dev-ates from operational protocols, another cartel imposter using the confusion to infiltrate. They had a second wave planned, David realizes as they catalog the captured operatives, using the chaos of the first assault to insert deep cover agents, not just agents. Camila adds sophisticated surveillance systems, long-term intelligence, gathering capabilities. They were preparing for a sustained campaign against border operations in the security hub. Nathan and Jessica review personnel files and security footage. 7 confirmed imposters among the emergency responders. Jessica reports all with legitimate credentials. Somehow check Tyler's access logs, Camila instructs. See what systems he's been accessing. In the weeks leading up to this, the investigation reveals a disturbing pattern. Tyler had been systematically downloading personnel files, security protocols, and facilities, schematics for months, preparing the groundwork for the Los Zorros operation. He was their primary intelligence source. Nathan confirms, but Valeria was their facilitator, the one who could move freely. Thanks to her translator credentials in the secure debriefing room, FBI agent Wilson